The former Prime Minister believes that this channel and the company that own it are campaigning against The Voice. Now, you can have your view on what you read and see each and every day, but it's rather obvious that there is a clear delineation between the news services and the opinion section of a newspaper. That extends to what we do here on Sky News. Everyone knows that. But tomorrow night there's going to be an online forum of, again, like-minded people who believe there should be a Royal Commission into the company that owns this particular television station. At it, they will reveal, and I am reading from their own Twitter feed here, a report analysing 800 pieces of News Corp's voice coverage, including 300 Sky News videos. Not just the editorial position. Sky is running a full-fledged campaign against The Voice. Now, of course, it does not require me to point it out, but I will for those that are half paying attention or are about to run off to the umpire from Point Piper, about the reality of what we do here each and every day. Now, you know that the most watched parts of our channel, the most popular parts of our website, come from the opinion hosts. The opinion hosts start with Sherry Markson at 5 PM and go all the way through to The Great Debate and then Piers Morgan each and every evening. You know us, you like us, you trust us, because we are fearless. We fire up, and often one of the reasons why people want to come after us is because we are incredibly effective at pointing out the absurdities and extremes of what the left are doing. But as you can see, we're also very proud here of our news coverage. And our news coverage is made up of people all over the country who all day, every day, try to call it right down the line. These are people who at times may frustrate sometimes the primetime viewers because they're calling out the conservative side of things. But I stand by all of the colleagues that I've ever worked with about the clear line between news coverage and opinion. There is no occasion where there is any doubt about which is which. But the joy of this channel is that with 24 hours, you get to see, say, a press conference happen in real time, some news analysis, and then at night, our opinion on some wider context of what that event is. You literally couldn't have more sides to the argument than if you watch all of what we do. But of course, the fit-up that is on its way towards this channel and the company that owns it is that somehow we were the ones who got no over the line because we denied the Yes campaign an opportunity to be heard, or we shouted it down at every opportunity. That's why the people who run this channel wanted to make sure that you could hear something that was literally opinion or even news analysis free. In fact, you could hear from their own mouths the people who are actively campaigning for yes and no. The Voice Debate channel is a 24-hour channel that is available on Foxtel, on Flash, and for free 24 hours a day at skynews.com.au, where you are able to watch speeches, forums, debates, community conversations from every part of the country. You are able to hear the passionate reasons for yes and the passionate reasons for no. But what is going to particularly piss me off about the misconception of what we do here is that we will, of course, fundamentally ignore perhaps the best journalist in the country when it comes to Indigenous affairs. Matt Cunningham is a man who has won awards for his coverage, but more importantly, is a man who, when given opportunities to move to so-called bigger and better jobs all around the country, says, no, I'm staying in the Northern Territory. I'm telling the stories from Tennant Creek to Alice Springs, from Alice Springs to Darwin and all in between. I will make a documentary that is as even-handed as any piece of television that you would see anywhere on this particular issue. That too is available right now on multiple platforms and formats. Now, Matt and I have been mates for a long time. I didn't know him before he worked here, but I'll tell you when we particularly bonded and the issue in particular that we bonded over. It was a horrific story from the Northern Territory a few years ago involving the rape of a 2-year-old. Now, if you have a memory that extends longer than the life of Twitter, then you would know the rage that I had on this air in the opinion hours about the lack of action, the lack of national action to what clearly was a problem that Matt and his colleagues at the Northern Territory News had covered uphill and down dale. I will not allow Malcolm Turnbull to sit in judgment of this channel or this company on this issue. Because remember, when it comes to The Voice, when he was the Prime Minister, this process was already taking place. He could have legislated The Voice if he wanted to as Prime Minister. He could have taken it to a referendum as Prime Minister if he wanted to. Instead, he did not. Instead, to his eternal shame, he referred to The Voice as a third chamber of Parliament. I say to his eternal shame because in many ways it was people's first introduction to the issue. And for many people who may go on to vote no, it will be in part because the issue was introduced to them by the Prime Minister of the day like this.
An assembly of the kind that was proposed would be, in effect, a third chamber of Parliament. And I don't believe our Parliament should have any chambers other than the two that it does, the House and the Senate, and they are open to all Australians.
Now, let's be clear. I joke about Malcolm Turnbull as the ghost because I know every time I mention his name, I give him what he wants, which is attention. I also open up a new front of people to come and argue on his behalf for the smoke signals that he sends in their directions about this company, about the people who work here, and about what they think happens here on air as opposed to what you know happens here on air. But I will not be judged by a man who took months to go to the Northern Territory after the assault of that little child. In fact, it was Matt Cunningham and the reporters at the Northern Territory News who had to put it on the front page of the paper that Malcolm Turnbull did not turn up. It's been 4 months since the rape of a 2-year-old girl sparked a national crisis and 9 months since he set foot inside the Territory. The Missing in Action Prime Minister for the East Coast has shown he simply does not care. In reaction, in part, to that front page and the rage that that case had caused, he eventually made it and spent the night in Tennant Creek. But just in case he thinks that this was all narrative News Corp building, may I show you the reporting of the very news organisation that he willed into existence, The Guardian, where they quoted locals as saying, finally, the Prime Minister is here. Now, Malcolm Turnbull is way more connected than I will ever be. He is smarter than I could ever hope to be, and he is richer than, of course, I will ever be in my life. He is better connected than I could ever dream of being. And there is no way that when I defend myself or defend my colleagues that we can ever have the last say. I don't seek to have the last say. And 9.5 times out of 10, I always let it go through to the keeper. But on this issue, when his actions, in part, sowed the seeds for what the no result will be, regardless of his change in heart at 5 minutes to midnight when he is not a person of power, and his actions as Prime Minister when he was called out by local media and friendly media on the ground for failing to turn up in Tennant Creek for months after the assault of a child, I will not be judged by this man.